Welcome to Wednesday Mindful Pilates. Come to a comfortable position on your back. And you may want to look around. It'd be great for you to have your gurney ball or your blocks ready for under your hips in a few moments. But let's begin right here on our backs with a little somatic walking. So reach your knees out over your toes. Feel one hip rise and release, and then the other hip rise and release. And remember, this isn't a really big movement. It was good for me to be in Japan and work with some people who I hadn't really worked with in person and see what their rendition of somatic walking was. So I want you to feel into the knee going straight out over your toes as it lifts your pelvis off the ground. So it really is almost like you're walking, you're sauntering. Your feet stay on the ground and you press one a little harder into the ground as that knee moves forward over the toes and lifts the hip. And then just let your arms rest to the sides, palms up, and let the head of your arm bones rest back towards the floor. You may need to pick your back up a few times and let it broaden out, keeping your neutral curve to your lumbar spine. Just enjoy the rocking and the release of muscular tissue in the low back. From here, we'll go into our three-dimensional breath. Let's pause our rocking and take a deep inhale. And exhale and just relax into your neutral curves. And again, you may lift your pelvis and stretch it away from your head. Give your spine plenty of room to lengthen out on the mat. But keep your neutral curves. So your gaze is perpendicular to the floor. You have a nice cervical curve to your neck. Breathe into the thoracic spine that's against the floor and invite it to relax on the exhales. The head of the arm bones relaxing open. Let your head rest back and let the hyoid bone rest into your neck crease. And feel how you're working on postural alignment. Many of us pull the heads of the arm bones forward around the heart. This is your chance to let them relax back into the hug of gravity. And then exhale and scoop your tailbone up towards the sky, flattening your lumbar curve against the floor. And roll up just to the top of your sacrum, which is below your hip bones. So if you want to know how far you're rolling, you can feel your hip bones and think, not rolling quite that far. Your glutes will be activated, your hamstrings, and now breathe into the low back. This is one way to activate the back of your diaphragm and ensure that you're breathing three-dimensionally throughout the class. So take a few fluid breaths into the low back body. Feel for the tissue around your lumbar spine opening back into the floor. The low back expanding. And then release into your neutral curve again, three-dimensional breath. Invite the breath into your back body as well as the front body. And if you place your hands on your belly, you may be able to feel the breath into the belly. Invite your hands around to the outsides of your waistline and breathe into the side waists. And as you breathe into the side waist, you might start feeling more breath in the low back. And then tilt your tailbone up towards the sky again and breathe into the low back as you breathe into the side waists. And feel for your back expanding against the floor. Remember, this three-dimensional breath is fundamental to activating the whole circumference of your core. This breathing into the low back also helps us release the erector spinae muscles along the spine, which can become overly activated. and then release back into your neutral lumbar curve. And draw one knee into your chest and just hug it in. Release that foot back to the floor. Draw the next knee into the chest. And release that leg back down. Let your arms relax and float one leg into tabletop. Float it back to the floor. Float the next leg up. Float it back to the floor. If any of you need a blanket under your sacrum, this is a good time to put it in. Balance that with the height of your pillow. So you don't want your neck ever to be used as a fulcrum. Shoulders are broad. Neutral lumbar curve. Float one leg into tabletop and pause. Exhale and float the next leg up to tabletop and bring your hands to the front of your femurs and press your hands against the femurs as you pull the femurs towards your chest. Broad across your shoulders. Release the shoulders away from your ears. Maintain your neutral lumbar curve as you press your hands and pull your femurs. Come back to your breath and feel for your breath meeting the active abdominal core. Neutral lumbar curve, neutral cervical curve. And release the knees towards your chest, hug them in, circle them wide apart and back together. Now say good morning to your femur bones moving in the hip sockets and invite the synovial fluid to flow inside your hips. We're taking it nice and slow today. Take your knees the other way. What I like about this idea of mindful Pilates is that you really get to feel into your body what's working. Where do you feel inhibition to moving with effortless effort? And ask yourself, oh, how can I make this more effortless? Maybe you let go of the hands and just let the legs circle on their own. Let the shoulders be broad. And then bringing the legs together, draw the right knee in, lengthen the left leg out at your 45-degree angle. Some of you may go higher. We aim for a straight leg to wake up our inner quad. Nod your nose towards your mouth and almost lift from the hairline. Lift part of the weight of your head off, lifting from the upper forehead. And switch legs and hold. Feel into what's working. Are the front neck flexors turned on? We don't want the base of the skull muscles turned on. And switch, and switch, and switch. Some of you will be able to float the head up and look towards the inner thighs. Only do this if you don't have osteoporosis or a neck injury. Now float your feet and press out with your big toe ball mound and your pinky toe ball mound. This is called single leg stretch in Pilates. We're beginning to work the psoas, the front hip flexors, and the inner core. And then draw both legs in, release your head back down, reach your hands and feet for the sky, zip the inner thighs together and take wrists away from ankles. Keep your lumbar curve. Circle the arms, hug the knees into the chest. Keep your heels glued together as you reach. Circle and hug. The knees can come wide around the chest as you hug them in. We inhale out and exhale in. When we inhale out, we have the neutral lumbar curve. When we exhale in, we flatten the low back against the floor. Fluid breath, inhaling out and exhaling in. Feeling into the strength that unites our limbs to that central part of our body. In Qigong, this is your lower dantian. It's also called your hara. In dance, it's your center of gravity. And now bring the right leg overhead, left leg long. The front knee can bend if it needs to. Pulse, pulse, and switch. Pulse, 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 pulse. Again, nod your nose towards your mouth, almost lift from your hairline. We want to wake up these front neck flexors and lengthen the muscles at the back of the neck. Float your feet. Some of you will float your head towards your shin. Flex your feet, reach out through the heel if that's accessible to you. Notice how amount of stretching feels right in your body. Maybe you go back to the float or you do a partial flex. Point the toes again. Reach out through the toes. Really make a point so you stretch the fascia in the front of the feet. Now bring your legs together. Rest back. Bend your knees. Shoulders wide, toe dip, one foot towards the floor. Exhale it up. Inhale the other. Exhale it up. Shoulders stay broad. Head of the arm bones is released. A slow series of 5. If you feel like you want to go farther than a single leg toe dip, bring your legs together and toe dip both feet at the same time. Stay strong from your low ribs to your hip pointers. Don't flare into a back bend as you do this. And you can go just a little distance. We never go to the point where we touch our toes to the floor because that makes us rebound. Keep your shoulders broad and engaged back into the hug of gravity. Keep your neutral cervical curve and your gaze perpendicular to the floor. Come back up, flex your feet, place your hands on the front of the femur bones. Press into the femurs as you pull the femurs towards the chest. It's an isometric that's very safe for the low back. Feel into your front abdominal core working. Stay with your breath. And then release the knees in towards the chest. Circle them together and feel the perimeter of your sacrum as your knees circle. When you're on the edges, you're rolling over your SI joints. Notice if one tends to be more tender than the other. If it does, our next exercise will be really good after the series of 5. Our next exercise will be really good for realigning your SI joints. Circle the other way. Good. And then come back to your tabletop, hands behind your head. And exhale, right elbow lifts as right leg extends. Pause. Rest the head back into your hands. Traction from the base of your skull. Reach the elbow skyward. Lift the shoulder blade. Lift the rib cage. And switch. Reach the elbow straight up. We're not trying to reach it towards the opposite knee. We're not flopping across the body, but we are waking up the obliques because even just lifting the shoulder blade and lifting the rib cage, you're coming into a twist. You can stretch your feet out in a floint. Open your toes wide. And then flex the feet. Press out through the heel. Reach the elbow skyward. Reach and reach and reach. Point the toes and press out through the toes. Reach the elbows skyward. And come back to center and release the head and float one foot to the floor and then the other. Take your Gertie ball and put it between your knees. Heels aligned with your sit bones. We're going to hug into the Gertie ball and we're going to release and pulse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and hold, pressing into the Gertie ball. As you're holding with the inner thighs, pat the outer legs and the outer hips, the outer buttock, and engage those banks of your river towards midline as well. Now, this is not a gripping action, it's a hug. It's just creating a container. And now release. Take the Gertie ball out and float one leg to tabletop. Take an inhale. Exhale, float the other leg to tabletop. Place the ball between your knees and flex your feet. Palms up, arms wide. Hug into the ball and release and pulse the ball. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and hold. Let your spine be long, your shoulders broad, hugging into the ball. Bring your hands up to the outer hips. The outer legs hug the midline. As you hug into the ball with your upper thighs towards your knees, you're taking the femur bones a little wide around the sacrum, which can help you resettle the sacrum between the ilium bones. And release. Take the ball out and reach around your right thigh. You can interlace your fingers around your hamstrings behind the leg and lengthen the left leg out. Press the right leg into your hands. Don't go any farther forward than perpendicular, but you're pressing your leg into your hands and you're pulling back on the leg. And just pause there for a moment, feeling into how this pressure can change the pressure in your hip and SI joint. And then hug the knee back towards your chest. And one more time, Press the femur bone into the hands. The arms can lengthen, the elbows can lengthen. Press and draw the knee back. And then let's switch sides. Bring the fingers around the left femur. Reach the right foot out at your 45. Press the left femur into your hands. Slowly, the arms can lengthen. Keep your gaze perpendicular to the floor. Press the femur into your hands. And then release the pressure. Hug the knee back to your chest. And one more time. Press the femur into the hands. And release the knee back into the chest. Draw both knees in. Set one foot on the floor, light as a feather, and then the next. Press your pillow out from under your head and bring your arms into robot arms. Float your pelvis skyward and pulse the pelvis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hold it up. Cat your glutes and the outer legs and hug the midline. Keep your femur bone straight ahead so that the muscular tissue is creating banks to your river. Take a deep three-dimensional inhale. Exhale through pursed lips. Draw the pelvic floor into the body. A few breaths like that where you exhale through pursed lips. Feel your active pelvic floor at the center of things. Now gently draw your heels towards your buttocks. Feel your hamstrings activate. Press your heels away from your buttocks. A different kind of activation. Heels towards your buttocks. Heels away from your buttocks. Heels towards your buttocks. Heels away from your buttocks. Inhale, lift your heart. Keep your cervical curve. Exhale, float the pelvis towards the floor. Let it barely touch. And inhale, lift. And exhale, lower. We're now strengthening the back of the core. Fluid breath, inhaling. You're like a kite, your pelvis is rising skyward. Then it exhale and it floats down on the wind currents and then it rises again. Now lift it back up and you can either float it down slowly or roll down one vertebrae at a time. This will mean letting the glutes loosen as you roll down. Roll into your neutral lumbar curve and roll back up, releasing the spine. Take an inhale at the top and exhale, roll back down. Inhale into your neutral and exhale, roll back up. Pause at the top and pulse the pubic bone. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Hold the lift. Reach out through your knees over the toes. Hug your heels in towards your buttocks. Press your heels away from the buttocks. Hug the heels towards the buttocks. Press away. Hug towards. Press away. And lower the pelvis down. Beautiful. Reach for your block. Your ball or your block or your oof and bring it underneath your pelvis. Again, no pillow here or just a very low one depending on your body. Come into your robot arms. And exhale, float one leg up to tabletop. Now remember, your ribs are reaching for your hip pointers. Float the other leg up to join. Open your knees as wide as your shoulders and toe dip at this angle, drawing the heels together and then floating the foot down. We inhale down and exhale up. Fluid breath. Try to stay as still as you can on your prop, letting just the one limb move. But don't come into this exercise totally stiff. Feel for almost relaxing across the shoulder girdle, relaxing the arms heavy into the floor to help stabilize you. Relax the sacrum down onto your prop. Good. And bring the heels together and lift the legs up towards the sky. Zip up the inseam of your legs and take your feet as wide as your mat. Take them down, heels together and up. Keep your low ribs hugging towards your hip pointers. You can even put your thumbs on your low ribs, your fingers on your hip pointers, and maintain your Pilates square, even as the heels go towards the floor. If this feels like too much weight in your legs, bend your knees. Okay? So you can still get some of that really good core abdominal work without straight legs. Come up the center line, go down the center line, open and come up. It's always harder to bring the legs back up when they're wide, so we do it second. The low ribs hug towards the hip pointers. And again, we could do this with bent knees if it feels like too much with straight legs. Beautiful. Find that fluid motion where you feel that front abdominal core turned on, active, supportive. And then come back together. Lengthen the legs. Take your right leg overhead, left leg long. Flex your feet and gentle pulse, 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 pulse. If that's too much of a stretch, floint your feet. Spread your toes. Now point your feet. Pulse, 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 pulse. Feel into the stretch through the legs and go right into your writing of your bicycle. Now remember, we're not going fast. Some of you are going fast. Slow it down. This mindful Pilates is about really feeling where your body is in space. So that means we go really slow and we feel, wow, as I reach one leg out and draw the other leg in, what happens to my Pilates square? How does it change shape? And can I maintain integrity in the area around my spine as my legs move? Can I keep my shoulders relaxing back, my neck long, my jaw relaxed? And now take your bicycles backwards. Play with how you hold your feet. Maybe you floint. Maybe you flex. Rotate through ways to hold your feet so that you stretch your fascia open in different ways. And feel into the sensations of each different foot position. Getting to know the body. And after you've played with the feet for a little while, start feeling into, how are my knees behaving as I do this work? When I straighten the leg, can I feel that vastus medialis, that inner quad? And come back to the top. Bring your heels together, your feet a little wide in a floint, and take your feet apart so that there's about a foot between your heels, and then very lightly tap them together. And open and tap, open and tap. The tap is so light that if you had a ladybug between your heels, it would just feel a very gentle hug. It would not get squashed. So we tap and open and tap and open and tap, tap, tap and open and tap, tap, tap and open and tap and open and tap, open and tap, 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 and bend your knees and float one foot lightly to the floor and then the other. Pause with your arms released. Come back to your three-dimensional breath while still on the prop. Feel into breathing your back body towards the floor. If you have the capacity, bring your hands up to the lower back and massage the lower back. Some of you may not be able to get your hands into that position, but if you can, massage the low back a little and loosen it up. And then release your hands and come back to the breath into the back body. Feel for it. And inhale, lift your pelvis off the prop, lower your pelvis to the floor, tilt your tailbone towards the sky, flatten your lumbar curve, and breathe the low back into the floor. Feel for the breath against the floor. Now roll your pelvis up so that just the lowest back ribs are against the floor, and continue to breathe into the back body. We're releasing the erector spinae muscles. We're strengthening our three-dimensional breath. We're strengthening our glutes, our hamstrings. And exhale, release into your neutral lumbar curve. Okay, let's roll ourselves over and come up onto hands and knees. That was a good bit of work on the floor. Oh, hi, Mom. I didn't see you join us. I do? Oh no. Huh. Like my mic isn't working?
Yeah, it's almost now
Uh,
it works, but when you're back there, it sounds like you're in
okay.
the room without a
Yeah,
mic.
so it's going to be better now. Thanks for saying it because this wasn't, it somehow didn't turn on when I turned it on.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, that should be better. Okay, is it better? Yeah? Okay, sorry that that was cutting out. That's too bad. Okay, so come onto your hands and knees. Remember, you can be hands on a chair seat, hands on a piece of furniture. Is it better? Thumbs up? Yes, okay, good. Inhale into your cow and exhale into your cat. And inhale into your cow and exhale into your cat. Follow your own breath. As you inhale into the cow, draw your hands towards your knees. Really lengthen from crown down to the shoulders. So the shoulders are kind of releasing towards your hips. You're drawing the wrists towards your knees. And then exhale, press the hands away from your knees. Come into your hissing cat and pause there. Hands away from knees. Really arch the spine towards the sky. And again, breathe into the back body. We're really focusing on stretching open the back body today. Now I want you to take your right sit bone farther from your right shoulder and stretch the right side body. Then switch and stretch the left side body in your hissing cat position. Just inviting the muscle tissue around the spine to open. And then come back. Draw your hands in towards your knees. Come into your cow. Now take a deep inhale. Exhale through your straw and draw in your pelvic floor. Draw strength along the front of your spine. But don't let that mean you collapse your head back and jet your chin forward. Keep the back of the neck long also. And then come to your neutral with your core activated underneath the spine. And take your left fingertips to the left and float them up. Shoulder blades strong on the back ribs. Remember, we're not throwing the wrist behind us. The shoulder is engaged up. Then see, can you float your right shin out to the right? And lower both limbs towards the floor and lift both limbs towards the sky and lower and lift. Imagine a vase of flowers on your sacrum. You're not going to knock it off. Lower and lift. Lower and lift and lower back down. Take your right fingertips out. Long spine supported from beneath. Float the right arm up. Right shoulder blade really strong on your back ribs. The wrist isn't higher than the shoulder. And if you'd like, float the left shin up. Feel into your strength, into your myofascial slings, and lower the fingers and the shin and lift. And lower and lift and lower and lift and release. And inhale into your cow. And exhale into your cat. And come back to your neutral. Take your left fingers forward, your right toes back, and float your limbs parallel to the floor. And lower and touch and lift and lower. Remember, you're not coming out of your neutral spine here. You're not back bending to lift your wrist and ankle high. And lower back down. We're working on strengthening the multifidi now. Take your right fingers and left toes out and lift and lower. Keep your neck long, your gaze towards the floor. We lift and lower, lift and lower, lift and hold and lower. And one more time, inhale your cow. Feel into the pelvic floor, drawn into the body. Feel into strength along the front of the spine. And exhale, hissing cat. Hands press away from the knees, really active in all the myofascia. Breathe into the low back body. And begin to settle your sit bones towards your heels. Keep breathing into the low back. Walk your fingertips forward and come lift your palms off the floor. Fingertips are active towards the floor. Pelvis is pulling away from the fingertips. Breathe into the low back. And then ground your hands and float up onto the balls of your feet, knees bent. From the hands, reach way back strong through the sit bones and float one leg up behind you. Keep your pelvis balanced. And exhale, lower the foot towards the floor and inhale, lift it once. And exhale, lower it back down. If this is too much on your wrist, you could have your hands on a chair or on a piece of furniture. Float up with the next leg. Float the toes down. Float the leg back up and land the foot. Float forward into a plank. Now, some of you may come to a knee plank. Pause in your plank, each finger activated. If this is too much on your hands and wrists, then do it on your forearms. Some of you will be able to float one foot off the floor and land it back down. Float the next foot off the floor, land it back down. Fluid breath. Can you still breathe into your back body? And float back into your downward dog. Stretch back through your sit bones. And walk your feet towards your hands. Bring your hands back towards your feet. Bend your knees. Come into a supported child's pose, a standing child's pose. Some of you may want blocks under your hands or the chair seat. Some of you will be able to fold fully forward and lift your sit bones into an uttanasana, a forward fold. Wherever you are, full three-dimensional breath. Align your heels and your second metatarsals and slowly bend your knees. Inhale up, hands to the heart, Utkatasana. Reach the tailbone long behind you and reach out through your crown chakra. Take a deep three-dimensional inhale. Exhale, keeping the legs stable, twist one direction. Feel what happens in the low back body. Inhale, back to the center. Exhale, slowly twist the other way. Feel your low back. We're stretching it out. Inhale, center. Exhale, the twist. Inhale, center. Exhale, the twist. Inhale, center. Release your arms and let them swing. Stay strong in your legs. This is now good for your blood pressure. It's been declared by science. Inhale, reach your hands skyward. And exhale, release into your mountain pose and pause with your three-dimensional breath. Okay, so now we're going to take all that floor work. I hope you got something out of it, even though you couldn't hear me. And we're going to come up and activate the myofascial slings one more time before we go into some arm weight work, okay? So open your TheraBand, put your right hand on your hip, and open your left arm out at your diagonal. Now, think of the floor behind you. Broaden your shoulders, rest your head back, rest your sacrum back. Feel for your neutral curves at your neck and your lumbar spine. And float up onto your left toes. And lift the left knee. And tap 2, 3, 4, and 5. Step down. Feel both feet on the floor. Feel your back against the imaginary floor. Lift to the next toe. Hug in the banks of your river so you don't slide that hip out. And float the knee up and tap. 2, 3, 4, and step down. Again, rest your head back. The hyoid bone rests into the neck crease. And release. So hopefully these myofascial slings are waking up a little bit. So when we bring in our hand weights, we're really awake. Broad across your collar. Lift the right arm out. Find your shoulder blades. Rest your head and hyoid bone back. Root your tailbone. And lift your right toe. Hug in the banks of your river. Take an inhale. Exhale through pursed lips and lengthen the muscles along the spine. And lift your knee and tap. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Step down. Lift to the other toe. And lift the knee and tap. 2, 3, 4, and 5. And step down and pause. Arms broad, shoulders broad, head resting back. We're not jutting the chin forward. The hyoid bone rests into the neck crease. And release. Now take the TheraBand over the top of your head. Take it wide. Now you're not pulling down on the head at all. You're just resting the hands onto the TheraBand. Puts a little weight onto the head. You're still resting your back body against the floor. Lift to one set of toes, lift the knee, and circle. 2 and 3, and step down. Keep the floor behind you. Lift to the other toe. Lift the knee and circle. 2, 3, and step down. Lift to the first toe. Take the knee wide and circle in. 2, 3, and step down. Lift to the next toe. Take the knee wide, hug in the banks of your river, and circle. 2, 3, and step down. Lean back onto the floor behind you. Rest into your neutral cervical curve at your neck. Feel for your neutral lumbar curve and release the TheraBand. Bring it around your lowest back ribs and bring it forward, palms up. There's some geese in my yard. And inhale, take your palms out and exhale, elbows into your sides, and inhale. Lift to one knee and exhale, step down, inhale, other side, step down, inhale, float the knee and release, inhale and exhale. Now really breathe into the low back ribs. This is our awareness today. We're waking up the back of the diaphragm. Step both feet down, take the arms out, really breathe into the low back. Exhale, elbows in, inhale, breathe into the low back. Exhale, elbows in. Inhale, breathe into the low back. Exhale, couple more. Follow your own breath. And rest with the TheraBand. Continue to breathe into the low back. Good. Let's put the TheraBand down and lift up your hand weights. Now, hand weights lifted, turn your palms forward. Broad across your shoulder girdle. Let your head rest back, your hyoid bone rest in. Root your tail and bicep curl, lift to one toe and release. The other toe and release. Some of you will lift the knee and release. You're keeping your back against the floor behind you. So it's kind of like when we're doing our toe dips, only we're doing it standing. We lift and release. Stay broad in your shoulders. Keep the banks of your river in mind. You may find a gentle lift to your pelvic floor. Yeah, good job. Now release and open your arms to a T. Fluid breath. Lengthen your neck. Take a deep inhale. Exhale up through a lift in the pelvic floor. Lengthen the sleeve of muscles around the spine all the way out through the crown. Take another three-dimensional inhale. As you're ready, exhale, lengthen the muscles around the spine all the way through the neck, through the skull, out the crown. Release your arms. And inhale, fill three-dimensionally. And exhale, as you push the hands down, lengthen the spine skyward through that sleeve of muscles. Now, at the same time, you can hug in the banks of your river. We inhale and fill. And exhale, press down, lengthen the spine, draw in the banks. Inhale, fill. Exhale, grow taller. Inhale, fill. Exhale, activate your banks, even up the side bodies into your armpits. And inhale, exhale. Now, in the exhale, float to one toe. Lift the knee. Turn your palms forward and bicep curl 3 times. 2 and 3, and step down. Lift to the other toe. Lift the knee and bicep curl 3 times. Yeah, we're getting stronger. Keep that floor behind your back. Now, float your arms in front of you and let them draw little circles. Keep your back against the floor behind you. Let the hyoid bone rest in. Your little circles up can stop wherever it's right in your body. Keep the back body against the floor. Notice if your cervical and lumbar curves change. Try to keep your body against the floor behind you. And one more time. Circle forward. You can imagine it as a wall behind you if you'd rather. Keep lengthening through the tailbone as you reach the arms skyward, and then circle back down. Stay against the wall and release your arms. And then come into your walking arms. Feel how your spine rotates as your arms move, and let the knees join in. Opposite knee of the lifting hand lifts, and we march. But think of keeping the hyoid bone resting back. Your eyes are resting back in your sockets. We're not carrying the head forward of the body as we march. Can you make it fluid and easeful? How would you do that? Feel into your own body. How can I make this fluid and easeful? And pause. Okay, let's get a yoga block, or you can step up onto a stair, and let's do some of our side legs with our arms involved. Okay, so remember, you can place your fingertips on the wall and come up, or you can hold both your hand weights still. It's up to you. So you're going to step up onto a block, and your other toes are going to point earthward, and you're going to have a level pelvis. And then we're going to bicep curl and lift the knee. And lift and step down. Imagine that wall still behind you. You've added a little more challenge. Good. And release. Now take your hands to your sides, palms face in. You're broad across your collarbones. The heart's still lifting. Gaze a little bit higher than the horizon and lift out to the sides. You could have one hand on the wall and be lifting the other side. Continue to lengthen up from a lifted pelvic floor through the spine. So we're not leaning sideways. Beautiful. You're all doing this really beautifully. And one more. And then let's come out and see if we can hold it a moment. Oh, keep lengthening that spine. Beautiful. And step down. Now, right here, come into your marching with just the one leg. Let the head rest back. Your shoulders. Fluid breath. Good. Now, hands down by the hips. Lift the one leg and bicycle. Let the arms join in the bicycling. Fluid breath. Heart still lifted. Gaze still on the horizon. And one more circle. And let's step down. Woohoo! Pause on both legs. Notice the difference in the work you've been doing in the legs. And step the next foot up. Okay, so you step up onto your block and onto your toe, level pelvis. And we bicep curl and lift the knee. And lift. Can you keep your back against the wall behind you? Let the hyoid bone rest back. Let your shoulders be broad. We're not flaring the square open to get the chest to lift, to get the gaze to lift. We're keeping this Pilates square strong. And then let your hands come down, palms face the body, and we open and release. Keep length up the spine. If this feels more challenging on one side, if you have scoliosis, that's normal. Don't force it. Keep thinking of length as much as you're thinking of the lift out to the side. And then use your breath. Maybe the inhale helps you lift. Maybe the exhale does. Use your breath. And then let's come in and we'll lift and hold. Ooh, keep strong, lifting through that center channel. And release. And let's come into, first we did the marching. Let's do the marching. So the one leg lifts as the opposite hand comes forward. Can you stay strong and long and tall? Remember the wall behind you. And then both hands come down and lift the knee in your circling bicycle motion. Beautiful. Staying strong from the heart out to your arm bones. Yeah. Feeling into the strength of your standing leg. Check in with the four corners of that standing foot. We're strengthening that whole line. And step down. Woohoo! And walk around your room. Can you walk around the room with your body still slightly back against the wall? So we're not carrying the head forward. We're not rolling the spine forward. The heart's still lifted. And come back to center. Float your arms out to the sides and turn your palms up and bicep curl. And release. And bicep curl. And release. Bicep curl, lift to one toe. And release, other side. And release, perhaps lift the knee. And release. Lift and release. Lift and release. Lift and release. Lift and hold as you open the arms and curl and open and curl and open and curl and open and step down. Lift to the other side and step down. Open and curl. Keep the knee up. Open and release. Open and release. One more. And step down and roll your shoulders. Take your left toes out to the left. Lift through the pelvic floor. Take a deep inhale. Exhale, lengthen that sleeve of muscles around the spine as you lift your arms and release your snow angeling. Remember, the hands are forward of the shoulders. It's more like you're drawing an oval in front of you. We want to follow our own scapular plane. Your foot's wide open on the floor as we snow angel and release. Snow angel and release. Take the other foot out. Find that lift of your pelvic floor. Lengthen the sleeve of muscles around your spine. And maybe you exhale and inhale. Maybe you inhale and exhale. Find your breathing pattern. Find that length to your spine. Keep lengthening skyward. Stay true to the integrity of that inner line. Beautiful. Try not to use momentum. Lift and lower. See if you can slow it down. Lift and lower. One more. Lift and lower. Beautiful. Put down your hand weights and just pause in your mountain pose. Fluid breath. Rest your head back. Rest your hyoid bone in. And come to your wall. Come to your wall and let your shoulder girdle open back. Bring your humerus bones as much as possible back against the wall. Root down into your heels. Fluid breath. Now, bring your thumbs to your lowest ribs and your middle fingers to your hip pointers. Flatten your low back against the wall. Feel how the low ribs collapse in towards your hip pointers. Come back to your neutral curve. Lift and flare your front ribs away from the hip pointers. Notice how your back curls off the wall. Come back to your square. Let your shoulders broaden. Come back to your robot arms. And slide your weight over one foot, lifting to the other toe. Stay broad across the shoulder girdle. Take an inhale. Exhale, lengthen the muscles along the spine, hug in the banks of your river, and lift the knee. Now try to take the knee out to the side a little bit and bring it back in, and out to the side and bring it back in. Stay strong in your back body, grounded in your standing leg. Come back to center and step down. Float to the other leg. Hug in the banks of your river. Lift the pelvic floor, lengthen and lift. Keep the length as you open wide. Keep the breadth across your back body. Use your back to help you stabilize. This back's going to help us with balance. And come back in and release. Turn around and face your wall. Bring your hands as high as you can on the wall and lift up onto the balls of your feet. You can step your feet a little wider than hip distance. Your hands can be wider too. Slowly lower your heels. Breathe into the back body. Create space between the vertebrae. I want you to grow taller in this class. As your heels come down, keep breathing into the low back. If you don't feel it, keep feeling for it. And then let your hands come down the wall. Step back for a Virabhadrasana 3. Long spine. Keep your head and neck above the arms. Float one leg behind you. Point the toes towards the floor. Take an inhale. Remember the cat-cow work you did and how you woke up the muscles underneath the spine. Do that. Reach out through your lengthened legs, heel. Actually press out through both heels. See if you can lower one arm off the wall and float it out like a wing. Wake up your myofascial slings. Perhaps the other fingertips will come off too, and your arms can open like wings. Bring your hands back to the wall and step in. Fingertips at shoulder height, root your tailbone and come into a standing back bend. But don't throw your hips forward. Don't overflare the front ribs. Lift the shoulder blades. Lengthen the sleeve of muscles along the spine even as you bend backwards. Release the shoulders away from the ears and lengthen the back of the neck. Take a few three-dimensional breaths here. Even here, we try to breathe into the back body, not let it collapse. We're keeping space between the back vertebrae, even though they're moving towards each other. And exhale, back to neutral. Reach your fingers high again. Come onto the balls of your feet. As you slowly lower your heels, breathe into the full circumference of the torso. A fluid breath. Stretching the body open. Let the hands come down the wall. Walk back into your half dog. Pause here and activate the core, perhaps with an exhale through your straw. Lift in the pelvic floor, lengthen the sleeve of muscles. Maybe you come to your fingertips and float the next foot up behind you. Find that level pelvis that you had in the earlier myofascial sling activity when we floated our limbs up in tabletop. Perhaps you can let one arm go and float out to the side. Wake up that shoulder blade on the back body. Connected it to the lifted leg buttock. Perhaps the next fingertips can go. Fluid breath. And exhale, hands back to the wall. Step in. Fingertips at the height of the shoulders. Draw the arms down. Root the tailbone. Lift the low back ribs. Lift the base of the skull and curl back into your standing cobra. Take a few three-dimensional inhales. And exhale through your straw, lifting the pelvic floor, lengthening the whole sleeve of muscles along the spine, up through the neck. We're becoming aware of creating space in the spine, no matter what position. The banks of your river hug in, they root down into the outer heels. And release. Turn your back to the wall, heels to the wall, fingernails to the wall. Broad across your collarbones. Rest back for a moment. Now, stay aware of your back body as you root your heels into the corner of the wall and floor and lean forward like the prow of a ship. Breathe into your heart. You're not over activating the flare of the ribs. You're keeping somewhat neutral, reaching your tailbone down and back behind you. Take a deep inhale. Exhale through your straw. Draw in the pelvic floor. Lengthen the sleeve of muscles along the spine. Find a lift to the heart. Feel into your strength. Feel into your back body. Root the tail. Lift the base of the skull away from the rooting tail. Lift the heart. And then walk away from the wall and walk around your room. Find that neutral spine and let yourself float with the awareness of that inner strength. And come back to center. Bring your thumbs to your shoulders and step to the right edge of your mat in your Pilates V. And float to the left. and float back and float and back. If you'd like to add the arms, stretch and back. Now really feel into your back body. The outer back buttock connects to the outer back heel of the back foot as you lunge forward. Feel into the line from tailbone to the base of your skull. And feel into that sleeve of muscles around the whole length of your spine, even as you hinge forward. We're not breaking at the hip. We're staying long. So it's not here, right? We don't break at the hip. That's going to put pressure on the low back. We stay back into the heel. The arms lift in a nice long line. Beautiful. There it is. And draw back. Step to the left of the mat. Pause. Lean back against your wall. Broad shoulders. Thumbs up to the shoulders. And hinge to the right. And back. Now keep that left heel grounded. The back outer heel. Keep the inner arch of the back foot lifted. And we reach and back. And we're hinging at the ankle, not at the hip. Protecting the low back. Beautiful, everyone. Woohoo! We're getting this. One more time. Reach and back. And release your arms. And let's inhale. And draw into this growing consciousness of that inner core. Let's inhale in and feel the diaphragm moving in the back body. And let's inhale in to this work, increasing our grace and effortless effort in our daily lives. Thank you. Good to be back with you.